Hello, everyone, and welcome to RMD, All Things Aesthetics and Wellness podcast with me, your host, Dr. Deborah Durst, and my co-host.
Hey guys, Verity Golombieski, nurse practitioner with RevitalyzeMD, and today we are talking about two very different forms of getting rid of fat.
That's right. And, so this is a big thing. Body contouring or body shaping is a huge service that is sought after by all kinds of patients, a wide
men
spectrum.
and women.
Young and old. And so, even little areas of cellulite, they're fit, they're young. There's always an area with women that is going to bother them. And we're the hardest on ourselves for sure.
Absolutely.
You can look at somebody and think, you don't need it, and they still have little problematic areas.
That one little spot right under my butt cheek.
Yes. And it just won't go away. So there's always some little areas. So there's lots of different things we can do. There's even injectable things that can be done. But what we're going to talk about today is Coolsculpting versus the treatments that we have available at RevitalyzeMD that work a lot better than Coolsculpting.
And use radio frequency or heat versus cold. And really the biggest difference between those, and even compare some numbers.
So Coolsculpting continues to be a very big hit. I'm still surprised at how many people actually pay for the service and how many people actually are still buying the machine. To me, doesn't make any sense, because if you're going to reduce fat, that does it. If you're going to reduce fat, you need to tighten skin at the same time. Why would you reduce fat in an area? So if I have fat on my abdomen and I want to get rid of that subcutaneous fat, why would I get rid of the fat and then have a bunch of loose skin?
Exactly.
Makes zero sense to me. Always has made zero sense to me.
Because then you have to go back and do a second treatment to tighten.
To tighten the skin.
And if you're not tightening at the same time you're reducing fat, it's harder to get that laxity corrected.
Yeah. Well, and I would actually maybe understand it. I wouldn't agree, maybe understand it a little bit more if those same offices were actually offering you a skin tightening treatment as a second treatment with the Coolsculpting, but frequently they're not. And so to me, I still disagree with that, because I think if you're going to have one treatment, you need to have both of them and not have a second treatment you're paying for to do the second part of what you need. But anyhow, so let's talk about Coolsculpting for a little bit, since it is such a popular treatment, has been around for a long time, and maybe talk about the reasons why I don't like it or why we don't like it here. So you're using cold.
Exactly. And if you can, what they say is if you can pinch it, you can tight sculpt it, right? So they use paddles where they pinch up the skin, use paddles, and then they cool the skin to 4 degrees Celsius. So it's very, very, very cold. So with this treatment, you can have redness, you can have pain, you can have discomfort, you can have bruising. So there are those things with the treatment that you don't see, like with when we use heat or radio frequency. But that's Tightsculpting or Coolsculpting. It is using cold to then kill and destroy fat cells.
Yes. So basically fat is supposed to uptake that cold and freeze easier than surrounding water-filled tissue. So it's supposed to crystallize, disintegrate the fat, and then it's slowly released into the body as waste. Which takes
is like 4 to 6 months, they said.
Yes.
Some of those destroyed cells can take 4 to 6 months to exit out of the body.
Yes, correct.
As well.
So if it's supposed to disintegrate, crystallize, disintegrate, and then be removed, that's great. So in an ideal world, if that works and you're treating your abs or you're treating your love handles and that happens, great. You have fat reduction, which, is supposed to be reported at about 23%. So we're not saying that doesn't work, but then you have loose skin. And so therein lies the problem. What do you do with the loose skin? Because you want to look better. You don't want to just kill the fat. And that's, the gold standard is liposuction.
Absolutely.
And to do that, but honestly, it's kind of doing the same thing where you're getting rid of fat, but unless you're tightening the skin at the same
as well.
Unless you're tightening in some way, then and it can be lumpy and bumpy and not in the right hands. That might not be an ideal result as well. But there's one thing that they don't talk enough about. It wasn't reported as much by the manufacturer initially, is that side effect that you can get with Coolsculpting. And we've seen at least 2 in the office that we've had to correct with our body contouring devices. And so that is called PAH, or Paradoxical Adipose Hyperplasia, which means paradoxical. It's like the opposite, like it's doing what you're not expecting it to do with the fat tissue. And instead of crystallizing, disintegrating,
and reducing,
it's
expanding.
It's expanding, getting harder, and actually kind of irregular in shape. And that's what happens in response to the freezing of the fat cell.
And it's interesting because we had spoken with somebody recently that has done multiple treatments and has said that now there's like almost compartments on her stomach the size of the paddles. Yes. So very specific to the hand pieces, where she was not one of those that you look at and you don't think would need anything. She was not a bigger woman by any means. She just wanted to tighten. She wanted to reduce the fat like under her belly button, that little pouch there. And instead now she described it as, I feel like I have a shelf and then like this hard area. And now she's like, now I have something I didn't even have when I started treatments.
Correct.
That looks worse. So that is a huge concern that's not talked about.
No. And it's actually supposed to be more common than you think. So more common in men. And it was reported by the manufacturer to be maybe 1 in 4,000. But in actuality, because there's been, hundreds of thousands of treatments, maybe even 1 million treatments by now, or cycles of treatment, and it's about 1 in 140 or so. Yeah. And so that's a big difference. And again, when you have a treatment for a long period of time, things change. And we find this with almost everything. There's surgical devices that later have been found to cause issues. So it happens across the board. So anyhow, but manufacturer reported decrease, very rare, and it's still less than 1%. But if you didn't have it before and you're that 1% that has some lumpy, bumpy stuff after, that's harder and irregular, and it actually does almost look like the applicator.
Yeah, so it's like a stick of butter almost. So the paddle, essentially.
Yeah. And so it does exist. So that's one of the things. So now add that to the fact that it doesn't do skin tightening. And that's really all I need to know about that treatment.
Yep. And they say on average, the fat loss, like you had said, 20 to 25%. But then we can look at some of our frequency competitors, such as like BodyFX, that has a 39.6% fat reduction using heat instead of cold, that does not have that kind of side effect or risk to it. So let's talk about radiofrequency.
Yes. We have a couple different body sculpting, body shaping treatments. All of them, number one, do both of those. Fat reduction and skin tightening for sure. I think you can't do one without the other. But radiofrequency is one of them, which is BodyFX is ours. And
that one helps also with cellulite treatment. So if we have fat, and we have fat in areas that we don't like, typically as women, we have areas of cellulite too. So if you're going to do a treatment to reduce fat, why would you not have that skin tightening, have that cellulite reduction as well? And on average with BodyFX specifically, it was like a 3.5 centimeter reduction circumference around as well. And it was very effective in reducing cellulite in women, and men have cellulite too. It's both ways.
And if you think about, it's almost like ironing out fat and cellulite.
And smoothing.
So you're doing all of it. And if you're tightening the skin, you're also holding stuff in. But fat can be inflamed fat cells, which is almost cellulite. So it's like bulging out of fibrous tissue that's holding everything down. And so if you're killing the fat, but you're also smoothing out everything, then you're going to do both fat reduction, skin tightening, collagen remodeling for the skin tightening, and you're going to reduce the cellulite area. So
that's it. That's the other thing that Coolsculpting does not do, is it doesn't do any new collagen production.
Yes.
And we see that with our radiofrequency treatments that are using heat. So it's sucking up tissue to melt the fat using heat.
And you actually have to pinch too. So with BodyFX, you have to be able to pinch it to get rid of it, because otherwise you don't have enough fat to kill. And so it's a mini device where you could do it underneath you know, for those double chin, but you got to be able to pinch that area. Otherwise, you're just talking about skin tightening and not fat reduction. And so with this, or you can do the body ones, and it's actually a very similar applicator to Coolsculpting, except you don't have any of those side effects of irregular, you know, increase in fat, you know, expansion and hardening. You have none of that, but it does pinch. And the final step in it is sending those radio frequency, that heat to pierce the fat cell and kill it. And so, but then all that skin remodeling too, all that collagen building, skin tightening, all of it.
And that's just one option.
Yes. So then we have the second option, which is Tightsculpting. And Tightsculpting, you know, uses a whole, it's not radio frequency. So basically that's a laser body contouring, body shaping. It's fabulous. The thing that's different about Tightsculpting than any of the others is that you can do, it is always going to do fat reduction and skin tightening. You never want to do one without the other. Yeah. But you might want to just skin tighten and not reduce fat. So like if we're under here, we have some loose skin, and we've had patients that have had Kybella. Yes. And so they have injected something to kill fat cells, and now they have loose skin. So we could actually just dial in and do skin tightening with no fat reduction with Tightsculpting, which you cannot do with any of the other devices. So that's a fabulous way to do it. And it has like a proprietary way of doing it with a double wavelength laser.
Yep, that dual wavelength.
Yeah, so it's a very unique, it's a robotic system. So whether we're doing it in small areas here, we're doing on the abs, the arms, anywhere, it's a robotic handle that is delivering that precisely. And again, evenly.
So you're not going to get those lumps and bumps.
Fast. And again, going back to this Coolsculpting, just so you know, if anybody has, and we'll definitely, you know, comment. We want to hear all your comments, especially if you've had any issues with Coolsculpting, because these other devices can fix those. So it's not like you can't have that issue fixed. And we've had to do some of that fixing. But this is fabulous because, again, it's robotic, it's uniform, it is fast, and it works to fix those areas, but also just tighten, smooth, and kill the fat. It's amazing. And so, but the nice thing about it is it's so precise that you can actually take away the fat killing part and just do the skin tightening, and you would never want it the opposite.
Yes.
And so that's the difference with Tightsculpting than any other body contouring treatments.
So in our office, we lean towards those forms of treatments. That does not mean that other offices don't offer the Coolsculpting. We just believe in not only reducing fat, but tightening skin as well, and being more complete in the treatments.
Yes. She's so nice about it. I will just say, she's so kind about it. I would just say there's no reason to do Coolsculpting.
No.
At all.
Do body effects or Tightsculpting. Pretty much, if you've got laxity and a lot of it, you're going to want Tightsculpting. Done.
Yeah. No, you don't want to do Coolsculpting unless if your skin's so tight that you don't need any tighter skin. Otherwise, but if you have fat underneath, you're going to reduce, then you have all this space, and your skin's just going to be sagging. So there's absolutely zero reason to do Coolsculpting. There's zero reason for people at this point to be buying the Coolsculpting machine and offering those services. And so Faraday is very kind.
I was being nice.
Delivery.
I was not as direct this time. If you guys have listened to other podcasts, sometimes I have been a lot more direct.
Yes, yeah. No, she was being kind, and I think she did the Joe Rogan approach to it, and I like that.
We're just having a conversation about the different options, the different treatments.
Yeah.
But definitely, if you've had even good experiences, bad experiences, we always want to hear about it and interested in each person's individual journey in trying to get rid of fat and tighten skin and what's worked for them and what hasn't. And then it leads us to podcasts like this.
And so we definitely want to hear about it. But just know that if you've had Coolsculpting, again, there's easy fixes for skin tightening. And not only are there laser ways to do that, but there's some injectable ways to do that too, with filler skin tightening treatments. So you can do that, but my issue is, like, if you're choosing a body contouring or body shaping from this point forward, then we're not saying that ours are the only ones on the market, but we have fabulous treatments, and you definitely want one that kills fat and tightens skin if you're choosing something from this point forward. But if you have some loose skin that you want with no fat reduction, then Tightsculpting would be the way to go, because
Absolutely.
we can dial that in and just do one of them. So
I do think it's important when we talk about like the right candidate for this type of treatment.
yes. Yeah.
That is
Glad you
really
brought that up.
important, because I think that sometimes you can go into some places and they will promise you the world. If we are very obese, these treatments are not going to give you what you think you will see with results. So sometimes, we say liposuction is the gold standard, and that is because these are treatments that will help with fat reduction, help with the skin tightening, help with the cellulite. But if we have so much fat, the amount of treatments you would need to see those results would be
very costly.
Very costly, where liposuction is a better option, especially with Coolsculpting.
Yes. Yeah.
You're more likely to have those abnormalities.
Yeah. I mean, if you're talking about like having extra layers, and padding, on, then you just really want to do your part. My opinion is that you want to do your part in trying to reduce that. Actually, decide on a goal, whatever it is, a time frame and a goal. And again, being specific and doing little goals, so whether it's every week you're doing something, every month, every 3 months. But when you reach your final goal, the big goal, then you reward yourself with these kind of treatments, because otherwise, Faraday's right, it's safe. You can still do them from a laser standpoint or a radiofrequency standpoint, but it's going to be too costly to do it. And so we really like to find the right candidate and just be very honest with you. And we don't do weight loss programs here, but we do very natural stuff such as hormone optimization, talk about nutrition and fitness and
vitamin injections
and peptides and other things that you can do to decrease the weight, get more active, but you got to do your part. So there's got to be a nutrition and fitness part to it. That's your responsibility, or our responsibility as individuals to do.
As providers, to be honest with you about what's going to work and what's not.
Yeah.
And for those of you that have lost a lot of weight, if you have a ton of laxity, again, there are times where it is a surgical need. And that Tightsculpting, although it is amazing, is not going to be the appropriate treatment. So make sure that when you're looking for a place, if you're not local or if you're not here, that you go somewhere where they're going to be honest with you, or you're not going to be happy with the results. And you're going to spend a lot of money and not be, not be happy with where we're at.
I mean, it's always about, cost obviously with any of this is going to play a part in somebody's decision, but also results and safety. And so if you're not going to get the results, it doesn't matter what the cost is, you're not going to be happy. So I agree. Well, good. Well, leave us some comments. Anything else you might want to hear more about. We are willing to deep dive into anything aesthetics or sexual wellness. Hit the like, subscribe, share with friends, all of that. But definitely we're here to revitalize your look, your health, and your sex life.
Thank you.